Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast,
where we talk about friendship, fun times, and most importantly, flesh and blood. Here are your hosts, Taylor and Isaac.
Hello, Attactioneers.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast. You already know that from our intro, but I'm Taylor and he is Isaac. We are here on episode, I think it's 38 or 39. We've had so many now that we cannot keep track in our brain, which I could look it up really easy, but I'm not going to. So here we are, doing it old school style, how we started with a glass of wine at your house.
In person, hanging out.
In person, yeah. We've both been a little bit too busy to be able to coordinate this in-person stuff. So
yeah, it was great. We played 2 games of Blitz, had a little team meeting with Colin, and then cracked some wine.
Hell yeah.
So welcome to the party.
Yeah, I hope you got your wine ready also. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the recent calling in Indianapolis, the effects that's going to have on the Pro Tour and the meta moving forward, and kind of just like the state of the game as well. So buckle up, Buttercup. But before we get to that, we're going to have some shout outs, I believe.
Yep. My first shout out goes to Michael Hamilton's cat mask. It was a delight. Loved watching it in the finals. I just imagine sitting down across from him and then, it just brighten your day, make you smile in such a serious competitive moment.
Totally. Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, everybody has to wear masks, COVID. Michael Hamilton's featured what looked like adorable kittens upon it. So hilarious.
It was great. So what is your shout out, Taylor?
So my shout out, huge shout out. I should also do, sidebar. I should also do a basketball update for everybody. So write that in.
Oh yeah. Actually, I met somebody at the last ProQuest who was a youth trainer and asked me how your team was doing and was just like psyched on the cross athletic flesh and blood whole podcast situation.
Awesome.
So yep. You are appreciated.
Oh, great. So we'll talk about that after shout outs, but a huge shout out to my wife, Maria. So if you have not followed us on social medias, but you're listening to the podcast, what's wrong with you? B, if you haven't watched our reaction step, which is on YouTube, but you're listening to this, C, what is wrong with you? But she has spent many hours drawing us a new playmat that is potion themed, I guess, inspired by Everfest, and so it's like
item themed.
Yeah,
it's like a shop of items.
Yeah, exactly. It's the alchemy shop, and a lot of the Everfest items and potions are depicted in there, along with some inside jokes from the podcast and that sort of thing. And it's extremely beautiful and awesome and that sort of thing. So what we're doing, shout out to Maria. Great job, Maria, my beautiful, talented, smart wife. What we're doing is we're doing a pre-order for anybody who is a part of the Patreon. So if you are in our Patreon, you're on the Discord, you have access to the pre-order form, and you get to see the artwork. And then so you can order as many or as few playmats as you want, but you must be a Patreon subscriber, and you have until April 4th at midnight to get in all your orders. So that's what we got going on, and that's my shout out.
Yeah, definitely. This mat has been a huge hit across all of the internet. I think I saw it on CNN the other day. But for those of you who don't know, so any patron will be able to order this at cost. The top level patrons will get it for free. And thank you to everybody who supports us always. We hope you enjoy this mat.
Totally. We'd love to see it out in the wild. And then once this is over, this is it. However many are out there in the wild is the most that there will be. So get them while they're hot. Maybe get a backup.
Yeah, maybe save a case of them for, they're going to appreciate.
Yeah. Exactly. And don't be the guy or gal or person who just like top tier Patreon gets the playmat and then bounces after a month. I mean, you could do that, I suppose, but come on.
Yeah, you might get a negative shout out at some point. I don't think we've ever done that.
Nah. We just talk bad about like Sabres Bolton, and that's about it. Isaac, I think you have another shout out.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out Michael Kaywood and anybody else who performed well or won a ProQuest this season on Lexi. You guys are doing great. Keep it up. Keep those bowstrings humming, or whatever. Whatever Rangers say.
Strung tautly? I don't know. Yeah, whatever you do as an archer.
Yeah, increase the tension, overflex, release the tension, headshot.
Sick. What a cool haiku you came up with.
They have cards for every step in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, basketball update. So
nice. News section. Go ahead.
News section. So some context. So I coach high school basketball. If this is your first time here, I actually coach at the high school me and Isaac attended, and where I played many hours. I was trying to do the math, but I think I have 10,000 hours of sports in our basketball gym now as a coach and a player, easily. So
that makes you a master,
Yeah, that's what I was trying
10,000 hours
to
or more.
Yeah, I was just trying to.
That's what you're trying to validate.
Subtly say that. Yeah. So we won our league in our final home game in overtime by 1 at the last second, and that was the first time since 1993 that we had done that. And on top of that, we qualified as the first seed into the playoffs, and then qualified also for state. So we lost in the semifinals, I think, quarters. I think we lost in the semifinals of our sectional playoffs. Pretty unfortunate, but then we qualified for state, and we probably played, I think, our best game. We had to drive 4 hours to go play this game against a private school, and we're like a little public school. And we played an amazing game in an amazing atmosphere, and we're actually ahead for 90% of the game, but could not overcome some amazing last second shooting by the other team. One of their senior guards, who's very good, was hitting extremely deep and very tough 3-pointers with a hand squarely in his face, excellently defended, and we just didn't have enough time in the game to overcome that, but it was an amazing run. It's this team and the season we have is easily top 5 in the school's history. So really amazing, and especially since we did it during COVID. I mean, I had huge sections of the season where my best players weren't playing, and we still managed to win games and keep ourselves in the running for that league title and stuff. So amazing group of young men, and I'm very excited for next year for sure. So
yeah, great run.
Yeah.
Making your hometown proud.
Totally. I mean, other than being national champion at Flesh and Blood, all basketball things are at our alma mater is top of my life goal list, which is to win league, win section, win our state tournament. All of those things are in the cards for us for the next couple of years, which is really exciting. So stay tuned.
Nice. Yeah, we'll get back to it next year.
Mm-hmm. We totally will. Okay, what's next, Isaac? You're the keeper.
There was a couple other minor news points, dwarfed by that announcement. But the second Pro Tour has been announced, and it will be held in France. Go look up those deets.
So, Isaac, you actually spent a whole year in France in high school on foreign exchange. Are you going to the French Pro Tour?
If I qualify, I actually would. It sounds like a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah, totally. Do we know where in France?
Maybe. I didn't write that down.
Okay, well, any city in France is probably better than New Jersey. Sorry.
Are you baiting Fresh and Buds?
No.
Tommy Fresh.
I am all about New Jersey right now because not only it's March Madness happening, right? And so there's this great Cinderella story of this actually really dope team, St. Peter's from Jersey City, and they've made it to the Sweet 16, third team ever in the history of the tournament.
Nice. Oh yeah, they had a big upset.
Yeah, totally. Their coach makes less money than the first round opponent they had, Kentucky, than their first 3 assistant coaches. Makes less money than them, and they beat them. Nice. It was awesome.
Great job, Jersey.
Yeah, totally. So big ups to Jersey City.
It would be really fun to go to a pro tour in France, just because you could take like a 2-week vacation. You know what I mean? Because like flying to Orlando and staying in I had a blast, right? Like playing Flash, but you're like convention center, strip mall diners, sleep, rinse, repeat, you know? So like, going to this awesome event and experiencing all that while having like an interesting or fun vacation around that, would be pretty fun.
Totally agreed.
Well, we'll see. I don't think ProQuest season for that has been announced yet exactly, but we'll be, updating you and playing in those. So we'll see how that goes.
Hell yeah.
Last bit of news, Rules 2.0 is announced, and it's a beast. But there are some good resources out there dissecting it for you. I think also straight from LSS.
Yeah, so anything you were thinking wasn't live yet is now live. I forget what those tiny interactions are. Like you can block find center maybe or something like that. Or
yeah, with armor.
Yeah.
There's like, well, we won't get into all of it, but there's like a number of clarifications that actually matter for the game. You know, like if you're playing, Prism or somebody who's been affected by these rules, it probably will come up if you're playing in a high level tournament. So it's important to familiarize yourself, as dry and homeworky as that sounds. Or maybe as fun and awesome as that sounds.
Totally. You don't know what kind of nerd they are.
Yep. To each their own.
Totally. Okay. Is that it for the news?
It is. What's our next segment?
I can't remember. Is it our main topic?
It's listener mail.
Oh, sweet.
I'm just trying to have some banter.
Oh, okay, cool. I actually was blanking, so way to have my back. Good assist. That's a basketball reference.
You just threw it right back.
Or hockey or soccer.
Yeah.
Does football have assists? No. The whole game is an assist, right? You assist in blocking some other guy from tackling your guy who can then throw the assist to the other guy.
I feel like there's a lot of, like, you can use the word assist very liberally,
Like in general or in football?
No, just in any sport,
Yeah, that's true. Pass me a cup of water, great assist.
Yeah, or moral assist, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
all right, anyway.
All right, we have 2 listener mails. I reached out last minute, so thanks for getting back to us, you guys. All right, Taylor.
Yes.
First one. What's the plan for skirmish season? Sleeper heroes? And this is from Nathaniel Ferrante.
On Twitter?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Nathaniel. Nate, to his friends. I consider us friends, Nate. So, who are the sleeper heroes? Data Doll? I mean, is KO. I would say KO is the best sleeper hero, and Data Doll is just still bad, right? But better. Bad, but better. Who's another sleeper hero?
I don't know.
Azalea?
I mean, Kasai was, but
isn't anymore.
Was still pretty good and now is good.
Dash? Maybe Dash is a sleeper hero and KO.
Oh, yeah.
Those would be my 2 sleeper heroes. That's what I'm going for. No, actually, I don't know. I thought this like Oldheimer Earthlord Bounty situation I was going to go with. But I might have over tinkered and now it's bad. but I'm not sure, actually. That's my answer. But if you're looking for the sleeper hero, my pick is KO for sure.
Me too.
All you need is like one hot day.
I'm going to go out on a very fragile limb and probably regret my decision, but also KO, sleeper hero.
Totally.
I'm also going to say that, because I was talking about this earlier, just brainstorming, and I think that Ira might be out. Just because it was supremely efficient and very explosive before, but now there's just more explosive heroes.
Well,
And I'm probably wrong about this, but
yeah, this is my pushback is Ira now has access to 100 wins. So they have like a whole extra card that they can go like Kadachi, 100 wins, flying kick. Yeah. Right? And that's still for the blue.
Or 100 wins, flying kick or something.
Yeah,
wild. Yeah,
totally. So they can still like really blast you pretty good.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm probably wrong about that.
Yeah. Or it's not flying kick. It's, whatever. Torn to tempo costs 1. So you can Kadachi. Yeah. So I think Ira's still squarely there. This I did not realize is that I for sure thought Plunder Run was banned in Blitz. And I was informed that it is not. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah, this was big news to us for some reason.
It shows how much we've paid attention to Blitz.
Well, we were just talking about how like Briar was a force and a nightmare in the Blitz scene, right? So like, why did the ban not extend to Blitz? But
I don't know.
Riddle me this.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Chain could still be very good as well because they still have Plunder Run.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, great question. Sleeper hero tech KO. Colin, the People's Champion, is right now probably rolling the tables with KO.
Yep, we're refining a hot list.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we are actually. This is exciting.
Yeah,
Totally.
I hope it works out.
Here's the new tech. Ragamuffins hat. Right?
Yeah, figure that out.
Figure that out.
Figure it out.
What are we using it for? Okay, sweet.
All right.
Next question.
Now, Victor Broker, I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, says, who's going to be top dog when Starvo eventually rotates out? Prism benefits a bunch from having him in the meta. Seems difficult to square a Prism Runeblade meta without a third deck. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Prism is still like pretty good even without Starvo. It still beats Viserai. It's just a bit more of a skilled match. It's not as perhaps tilted in Prism's favor as it is in the Starvo match, which maybe it's not anymore. Hint, hint. But I think the next heroes, we were talking about this briefly just to prepare, and the next heroes that rise to the top, it seems like, are just like OG Bravo and probably Ice Lexi, because Ice Lexi does, not great into Prism, but pretty good into Viserai. And it kind of doesn't matter which Viserai strategy you're on. It's still hard. And if y'all are sitting there going, what do these guys know? I just sit there and OTK Lexi and it's no problem. That's because you don't have to play against Isaac. Okay? You're playing against Schmo Jabro over at Armory, who just picked up the deck and who does not play it like Isaac does. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
For the huge compliment.
Well, it's so true. We get this a lot.
I will riff off that also. I feel like a lot of people pick it up and don't like it or lose and then give it up as not very good. And granted, Ice Lex is like pretty rough into Prism and has its very bad matchups, but definitely has its strengths as well. But it rewards having a few reps. It's not crazy hard, but it's not super easy to just pick up. Totally. But yeah, I'm gonna say I do like the Lexi pick into Viserai. I'm gonna say if Starvo rotates out, I do like Bravo coming back. I'm also going to say maybe Oldham as a place. There's just this weird rock, paper, scissors format still, maybe, where, well, maybe not Oldham because Viserai is pretty good into that. It's just like, Prism's good until too many aggro decks surface, right? But then too many control decks, like emerge to like control the aggro decks, and then Prism comes back. So depending on how many events happen, I could see like something cyclic like that happening for sure. But I will say that even though maybe Prism and Starvo have been performing a bit better than Viserai lately, it's also potentially the most resilient deck because it does have a plan into everything. Yeah. So maybe it's not as good at Starvo as what he does, or as good at Prism as what she does, but it's just like fairly unique in that you have a game plan for, whatever happens. I mean, maybe not be favored into all of those, but just being a very dynamic deck is a strength.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, if you just go by the numbers, it's like the next highest couple of heroes, right, are like Chain, Briar, and Katsu, and those maybe like rise and take that spot, maybe particularly Chain, because the Viserai into Chain matchup can be quite close, especially if you're like well versed in it, so there's that as well.
I do also like, if somebody can build a Lexi list and have their sideboard guide completely dialed so that you can flex like ice or enough like density of hit effects and flex aggro enough to beat Prism, that'd be at a really, really strong point.
Totally.
But, so far that doesn't exist. Right. But, or maybe that's impossible. Maybe they designed it really well. But it just feels like if you could get there, it could be really strong. But
yeah. Agreed.
Anyway,
great question. It's good to think about that stuff. We could probably do a whole pod about that, breaking that down. But we got, I was going to say bigger fish to fry, but we're not really frying anything.
We're just predetermined things we have to get to. So
yeah, that's a less sexy way of saying musing. That for sure. Yeah. Okay. Main topic of the pod?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, main topic of the pod. Okay, so this past weekend, we had the Calling in Indianapolis, which is in Indiana, a Midwestern state in the United States, up there in the north-ish. Hoosiers are from there.
Calling in particular was very significant because it was the first competitive event that's happened in quite a long time. Yeah. Except for New Zealand and Australian nationals that got delayed, but they're also on the other side of the world. So a lot of very talented players who've had quite a long time to prepare and even to test Everfest showed up at this. So it's a very good sample of where the game stands.
Yeah, totally. And right off the bat, huge shout out to Star City Games for doing a really good stream. There were some like technical issues with cameras and blipping and blurring and stuff, but the cards were very clear. The layout was really great. It wasn't too dark. You could see what they were playing, etc. The play area was great. And the casting, pretty good. I think you could hire me and Isaac to do those gigs as well.
The casting was great, except when you consider that we were available. So
yeah, totally. Dropped the ball. Not gonna lie. So if there's one on this side of the Rockies and y'all don't invite us, you're missing out. I'm telling you. We're very charming and we're very good at talking about this game.
Dude,
we have hundreds of hours.
People do listen to us.
That's true.
I do appreciate that, Flake and the rest of the casters have made a pretty huge effort to get good at this game and to really understand it. So, seeing that journey and, just, priding yourself on your production and, really making the effort to be very knowledgeable about what you're casting is,
Next level.
yeah, it's admirable.
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
we definitely appreciate that, because it's like, again, I know you're not paid for your hours of testing, Flake, and the rest of the casters. So
Yeah.
So good on you.
Totally. No, yeah, they did a really good job, and yeah, it was great. And the level of play too, even in the beginning rounds and other rounds of Swiss, was really good. Yeah. I was like surprised, actually, that because it's like an open event, right? So you're just like, well, anybody could be here on camera all of a sudden, and it could be bad. But no, it was like actually really good, and I was surprised at how clean it was and stuff. A note to the listeners, though. So one gentleman got disqualified and banned from the whole tournament for allegedly marking their cards. I'm not particularly sure on the exact particulars, but it had something to do with deck got shuffled, cards were being drawn upside down, but then he was Crown of Seedsing them right side up. Now, whether this was intentional or not is undetermined. Right. Thank you for that word. But just to make sure that like at these events or in your practice habits, like make sure you're playing very cleanly, right? It doesn't take too much of an extra step to make sure your cards are oriented the correct way in a synchronized fashion.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Taylor. Yeah. Because it just flipping your pitch stack or crowning and flipping the cards under the correct direction, or handing your deck to your opponent to shuffle and then putting it back the right way, like doesn't take a lot of effort. But just in your casual games, just do it, right? Because the unfortunate reality is that people will eventually, somebody will try to cheat at this level. So they do have to enforce these rules. They have very good reason to do it. So, yeah, good advice. Just put it in your casual, kitchen table habit. Make sure your cards are all facing the right way. Mm-hmm. I was actually thinking sleeves that are not asymmetrical are pretty clever to, just check yourself.
Yeah.
I was thinking that might be a good idea because I use, just like blank sleeves.
Right. No artwork.
I
just
could have
color.
easily done that.
Yeah, totally. I could see myself doing that as well. Or like you're shuffling and a card happens to fall out and you put it back in and it's upside down or something, or, so yeah, just be careful for sure. Okay. Anything else? I guess I derailed us here. So I have, the statistics for the hero breakdown on day 2 of the calling. Shall we start there?
Yep, let's hear it.
Okay, at the bottom, we have Bolton making up 1% of the field, followed by Kano, also making up 1% of the field. Guess who else is making 1% of the field?
Levia.
Nope. It would be Briar.
Briar's at 1%?
1% of the players on day 2. Guess who is at 4%?
Hold on, give me a second.
Great. Dead air is perfect for an audio.
Old school Bravo.
No, it would be Lexi.
At 4%.
4%.
Jeez.
Now we're into the big hitters here. So 11% we have...
Viscerai.
Nope, Chain. Then at 17% we have...
Viscerai.
There you go. 25%.
Prism.
Yep. And then rounding out with almost half is 42% Bravo Star of the Show. So big 3 represented very heavily. Bravo almost doubling the amount of prisms. Which when we get into the top 8, some of these numbers are rather surprising on how it all shaked out.
Yeah, especially that first number you listed.
The 1% of Sir Bolton.
Oh, no, Briar's.
Second
number.
Third number. Gotcha. Dude, yeah. You got to get better at these quizzes.
Man, I'm just bad at numbers.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, what's our top 8 breakdown look like?
Okay, so in top 8, we get 4 Starvos, 1 chain, 1 briar, and 2 prisms. Correct?
I think so. There weren't any Visceri.
Nope. Which is a pretty big surprise given the ProQuest season.
Totally. I think, yeah, all of those things are very surprising that there are this amount of prisms. And, it's because there's so many players too. You know what I mean? But like there's X amount of prisms, but we still have more Bravo represented. And that's probably just like a sampling situation. But you would think, in a perfect world or not even in a perfect world, but like, well, Prism kind of beats Starvo. So then why don't we, have more Prisms in the top 8 who have just risen to the top in day 2 beating Starvos, right? Because it's most likely that's who you're going to play based on the numbers,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's shifting a bit. Maybe enough Starvos have enough Prism tech.
Yeah, that's potential in that the Prisms didn't shift enough in the time frame. It's like pretty possible.
It's also in a 430 person event or whatever it was, you have to have like a really good record to make top 8. So I would argue that Prism maybe has some worse matchups than Starvo. So if a Prism player picked up 1 loss on day 2, they might not make top 8 just to one of their bad matchups, even if they beat the Starvos.
Right. Yeah. And there's like enough, like maybe the Viscerais beat that Prism number down. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I was surprised by the Visceri because just as an outsider, to me, there are strengths to each of the rune blades for sure. I'm not saying across the board, but I do think that Visceri is the slightly stronger one at the moment. So it did surprise me to see, a chain and a briar top 8.
I think that has to do with that Visceri can beat itself, right? Yeah. That the deck is pretty hard, and at an event like this where the level of play is a little bit higher, those like inefficiencies you have kind of turn to turn can really start to add up. So
yeah, like at least chain has card advantage maybe.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Clunky turn.
Yeah, it has a bit more variance that can like just kind of maybe win you a game. Visceri has that too, but it's a little bit sometimes harder to unlock, in the right situation. So, So there's that. Pretty surprising that so many Bravos made it to top 8, and that we have 1 chain and 1 briar. The dark horses, which is weird to say.
Yeah,
about chain and briar. Right?
I actually really enjoyed. So the quarterfinals match they showed had Michael Hamilton on Starvo against a chain player, Cody, and it got down to 1-1, or it got down to 1 health left. Right. Michael was on a bit of like a fatigue tempo, but pretty much fatigue strategy, and it was a very good game. Very fun to watch. Very long game. But just watching the chain player, try to manufacture that end game where he could push through enough damage, and seeing Michael kind of switch from maybe a bit of tempo to being like, I didn't draw it, or there's no window here, so now I have to survive in these last few turns. It just made for a couple really interesting last turns there. But Michael Hamilton pulled it out. And to me, it's like unsurprising, despite maybe the Prism matchup you don't love it. Just star of the show, it's like, it's just such a powerful deck, and just it has so many things going for it that you can see just why it's strong across the board and can, have such a strong showing in top 8.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like a pretty aptly named deck.
Yeah, it's filling those boots for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so in the top 8, so spoiler, Michael Hamilton wins the whole calling with Bravo, star of the show. Yeah. And he played, I watched, I think all of his games that were on stream. And he just played really methodical.
Yeah, he was on stream the whole time.
Yeah. And he was just really great. I thought his play was super tight. It makes sense why he won the Orlando calling, and it makes sense why he won this calling. I thought, I was just really, really impressed with, his lines of play and how he could continually, make decisions fairly quickly. I mean, you're still untimed, but, in terms of like some of the other players and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He just played really, really well.
Yeah, really tight. Like he's definitely considering everything he needed to on every turn, and making the correct decisions. It didn't feel like it was just autopilot here or winging it here. There's even a couple turns where he almost does something and he goes, nah, that's just like not it.
Yeah.
Totally. And then he like pulls it back and then does the right play.
Yeah. And it was inspiring, right? I do not want to play Starvo whatsoever, but after watching Michael Hamilton play, I was like, oh, maybe this deck's cool, So, it was great.
And I mean, especially after like so many matches on camera and so many, highly competitive matches with a lot on the line. He did really.
Yeah, totally. And so he wound up playing Fino Black, also dopest name in the tournament, probably.
Yeah. Took home that trophy.
Who was on Prism in the finals. And I think that was like a really interesting match to watch.
I enjoyed watching that match. It was quite good.
Yeah, totally. I kind of, because this is the first thing that's been streamed in a long time, I forgot how much fun it is to watch a game of Flesh and Blood. You know what I mean? Especially when you know the meta and you know the decks well enough to like understand the lines of play and how when both players understand what the other deck can do, how they're playing around subtly, all of these like little things to gain an advantage. It's very fun.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of, I mean, this game's so good because you like rarely see the same exact problem twice, right? And there's just a bunch of like, Fino gets an unmovable kind of stuck in Arsenal very early on. Maybe he's used to a little bit more aggressive Starvo players. Maybe his testing partners play that, whatever. But then a couple turns later, there's this window where he could play it out to block a yellow, maybe Autumn's Touch that has been star of the showed. But I think he has an all yellow hand. So he could kind of sacrifice this turn and his next turn a bit to like just get this unmovable out and then have a bit of a lackluster turn. But I think he takes the damage and then chooses to have a more powerful turn, but the unmovable is still in Arsenal. Right. And it's just like those little decision points where I was like, not the arsenaling it initially, but then the having the value opportunity, but only having yellows, right. Looking at that and being like, oh man, I'm like unsure. Because I thought he should have played it out, but, he'd really be hampering his momentum there.
Yeah. Yeah, so that brings me to kind of my overall take on that finals game. I thought it was just like kind of really interesting from the standpoint of that Michael's game plan and sideboard plan were, I think, slightly unique, maybe, and at least in the way he played it into Prism, that I felt like was not very typical, or at least, maybe because I'm not trying to break those two decks personally, I wasn't super aware of the play patterns that Michael Hamilton had, but he had, lead the charges. I mean, he used time skippers like right away to make sure the board state, didn't get ahead of him when Fino went, aura, had a double aura turn when Prism can get really ahead. And it seemed that like Michael's lines of play were atypical in that Fino was having a hard time trying to like gauge how the matchup was going to go. Especially in the early third of the game. In the mid game, I felt like Fino had finally picked up on it and was trying to vie for kind of tempo or board state and that sort of thing, but just could never really get there because of, kind of falling behind a little bit in the beginning of the game. And then thusly, Michael was able to close out the game. But it really, really just an interesting, cool game. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Hong Kong finals, how that game wound up being really interesting, kind of a similar vibe. Maybe not as epic of a finish, but still really good.
Yeah, it was really interesting. In between the lead, the charges, the blinks, and the time skippers, Michael had a lot of tools, and he seemed to just, it's like he had the reps in, right? So he just knew how to play, and it felt like it very well could have gone either way, right? But if the Prism player doesn't blow him out, he has a solid game plan for it. Yeah. And that's kind of the not kind of playing in fear of the blowout or being unsure, when damage is more valuable than auras or whatever. He, it just felt like he had all of his decisions, very tight. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I had the same impression, right? Like, it seemed like Fino had a really good plan into Starvo, but didn't have a dialed plan into Michael's plan.
Right.
And Michael had a dialed plan into Fino's plan. Yeah. Right. And like you said, he did adapt, and it was a good game. And there was a couple moments when you're like, whoa, this, Prism could run away with it here. But nope. Michael just always I don't know if he drew fairly consistently, but he always was able to rein it in or keep a lid on it a bit.
Yeah, totally. So congratulations to all those players who made top 8.
Yeah.
Incredible job. I feel like Cody has top 8'd another calling with Chain.
I've seen him on camera before.
Or maybe he just did really well at Nationals with Chain. I think he's part of the kind of Hyperloops crew who are like Chain acolytes.
Chain heavy.
Yeah.
Nice. That brings up one more thing, because I thought about this when watching. It's like this unmovable conundrum, right? Is because it's like the most valuable tool.
The defense reaction you're talking about? Okay, cool.
No, not that the conundrum is unmovable.
Yeah, totally. I thought we were talking about a metaphor.
I can see why that's confusing.
Yeah, totally.
But it's just because it's like the most valuable tool against this really powerful deck, right? But it's so hard to slot unmovable into a deck that is not already a fatigue deck, right? Like Bravo can run it pretty seamlessly because he has a plan for it. But as soon as you slide unmovable into especially red unmovable into, Prism or Viscerai or any of these decks, then you're just when you draw it, you're hampering that turn and prioritizing arsenaling it. And then from then on, you're, sacrificing a blue, at least maybe a card from hand and a blue to then play it out. So you're hampering another turn and, maybe trying to get something else in arsenal. And it just really cripples a lot of points in the game. And the upside is huge, right? It allows you to survive, Starvode fused Okanold or something. But, the downside is just massive. Or that's how I felt when playing Unmovable. It's just it's so bad. Unless it's absolutely necessary, And just, watching Prisms play with it or watching anybody play with it, it's if you're not fatigued, then that card, it just really hampers your game plan, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And, Michael's also had I think more Autumn's touches than a lot of other Starvos had. So he could continually activate Bravo and then just come in with something that has dominant sticky damage basically.
The yellow Autumn's touches I think are becoming more popular.
So he can continually have that go again to deal some damage and then take care of an aura, which is pretty smart and just as good tech. He just was really prepared. And I feel like we're just going in circles now about all of this, but exciting. You want to move on to kind of our post analysis of ProQuest and Indiana and the meta and the upcoming Pro Tour and that sort of thing, unless you have anything else you would like to add on to our...
Oh, thanks. I actually have 7 more points. No, I'm just kidding. little joke at myself there. No, thanks, but I am good. The video stream of that tournament is still up, so you can go check it out at Star City Games Twitch account. I don't know how long. Sometimes those go away after a bit. So if you're interested in watching them, go check it out. Okay, so we have a few topics here in our grand overall discussion. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the big three?
Your choice. Whatever you want, baby.
The Pro Tour is coming up, right? I'll frame it like this. Pro Tour is coming up very soon. You know, we have a couple battle hardens, but there's like nothing huge in between the Pro Tour and now. So
Blitz season.
So how do you see, I mean, do you think the meta is going to stay exactly the same? How do you see it developing? Do you have any like hot picks for the upcoming Pro Tour?
I mean, I just don't really know. Like the meta has been solved for quite a long time, right? Like maybe week 2. It was like, these are the top 3 decks.
Yeah. People like, oh, you can actually just fill Starvo with max, elemental cards.
Yeah.
And you actually hit it all the time.
Yeah. So now it's just like the subtle tech between all of the decks, right? Maybe some fallout from the Calling Indiana is that we see less Viscerai, maybe. But maybe those same players just like are going to the Pro Tour and just get a little bit better at the deck, and then the deck is like a little bit more well represented at the top tables. But really, I think it's just like now stuff is going to maybe target Bravo even more, right? And Bravo is going to have to adapt if they can.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because if after watching these games, if Bravo can tech to be pretty good into Prism, it kind of cuts Viscerai out. Right. Because then you're kind of good into everything pretty much. Yeah. Or except for, being targeted specifically.
I still think Viscerai is pretty good. It's like very good into Starvo,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. And into Prism.
Yeah.
Agreed. But I just mean if somebody's on the fence or looks at Viscerai's, downsides or whatever, and then is like, well, now maybe Starvo's tech is pretty good into Prism. I just think the Prisms have to adapt.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like, but adapting their strategy to, have, it's a fairly strong matchup or a decent matchup but turning it into a strong matchup. Contending with the new Starvo adaptations or tech or whatever. I think that's pretty paramount if you're going to play Prism.
Yeah, I think so. And who knows, maybe there was somebody at that tournament who was like aware of the Starvo changes or something like that and had a game plan, but just like couldn't make it through Swiss or something,
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, because unfortunately this is just one data point.
Yeah.
Which is pretty tough since some degree of your path to the top 8 is fairly random and your draws on the day are, as we can see with Michael Hamilton now winning 2 callings, skill kind of wins out, but there's
a bit of luck.
Yeah, if we had 6 callings to compare, it would be totally a lot more solid data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you know, in like a large event like that, there's many pathways through Swiss, which is tough. But yeah, so I don't, the Pro Tour, it's going to be the same, which is kind of, I think, a little bit of a bummer, maybe, that we're just going to see. I mean, I guess you can frame it in like, can somebody dethrone Starvo? Yeah. Right. So everybody's like rooting against that deck. So that's kind of fun. But I don't really see like a new dark horse arriving. Like, is Chain going to get even better? Like, probably not. I think that deck is like pretty close to its limits already, in terms of like what this meta is doing, you know?
So. Yeah. I mean, I do hold, it's just like, in theory, it seems like Viscera is the answer, right? But like you brought up, you know, they have clunky hands.
Yeah.
Or there's, you know, their game plans don't always win you the matchup or what, you know, it's like in practice, I know it's a lot more difficult than just saying that, but it just is like, you're just like, oh, you have an answer to all of these challenges. It seems like it. And I mean, it very well could win. Right.
Yeah.
But totally. Just we've seen the consistency of Starvo across this ProQuest season and now at this calling, right? Not that it's not challenged by Prism, but
yeah.
It's just been
it's for sure the deck.
Yeah.
It's the star of the show.
Yeah.
You know, which kind of brings me to like maybe a point that's like a little bit later down the list, but just kind of the design or thought process that LSS has enacted over the last couple of metas, you know, after the last couple of releases. Like, I mean, they did have to ban Chain, or not ban Chain, but nerf him in a way, but were like, you know, kind of seemingly manufactured a villain for the Monarch competitive season, you know. And then we have the rise of Briar also, right? Another boogie person from a new set. And then we get, you know, the aptly named Starvo, or Bravo, star of the show, you know, to just like come in with this insane ability and, you know, just instantly be the top deck, you know? So how do you feel about that? That, you know, maybe a little bit of a tinfoil hat on, that LSS is kind of manufacturing our metas rather than letting us figure them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's really a whole lot to unpack there. But yeah, and it kind of like, to me, it seems like I would argue that Briar, the power level of Briar was a bit of a mistake, but the design of Chain and Bravo seems like they were kind of trying to create a role. Like you said a long time ago about Chain that, you know, it's like maybe they wanted a bad guy for the set, or a villain, right? Who's like powerful, and then good guys, and, you know, it just creates this narrative, right? And I've never been involved in game development, so I'm just like, just flapping here. So sorry to anybody that I offend, or I'm not trying to make it sound easy or anything, but just to me, it seems like creating a balanced game is like hard enough. Mm-hmm. And then if you are trying to create like a strong character who's not overpowered, but is, you know, a strong presence, that seems like just making it even more difficult. Right. So if you want Chain to be strong, or if you want Bravo to be the star of the show right now, I think you're kind of just playing with fire a little bit too much. And they may have not set out with that in mind. You know, I could have just made this up right now. Maybe they were trying to make it completely balanced, but, you know, it just, if that is the case, it hasn't really been working out that well. Right. And to me, people love role-playing their characters and love the flavor of all of these heroes. And, you know, to me, if they set out to make if a balanced meta was their goal, enough of a narrative would emerge anyway. Right? Was that a little bit too speculative?
No, I think you're kind of spot on there. Like, I would really like the meta to be more in the player's hands, you know, and to see what would really happen. You know, I think you had this point earlier when we were prepping for the podcast that, like, you know, pre-Monarch, you could play any hero and you still had like bad matchups. But post-Monarch, or Monarch and post, you just like can't play some heroes because it's too terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Went for good and bad matchups to playable and unplayable, essentially. Yeah. Even at a skirmish or armory level, you know, because if somebody's playing Lightning Briar, you can't play Azalea or, you know,
totally.
Whatever.
Right. which is like, and this is going down the rabbit hole, maybe a bit too far for us, but the hook of the game is these dynamic, cool heroes. And you should be able to a degree play and have fun with the hero that you like the most.
Right. Still play the game.
Right.
Even if even if most matchups are really tough, you'd still play, you can still have interactions and challenges and overcome some of them and win matches occasionally.
Occasionally. Yeah. I'm not saying like, we need Kano and Azalea and Dash now to be like Reinar, Leviah to be top 8 contenders. That's like not what I'm saying, but
like when you sit down to play a game, that it's an interactive game that either side of the table could win at some moments.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I think that's the most ideal situation. Now, whether that is actually viable in the model that LSS has set forth, I think we're figuring that all out as we go, which is totally fine, and I think part of this too comes from, these questions about the meta and what LSS is doing with set design and that sort of thing comes from the fact that the game is still like very new. Once we've been through these competitive seasons for, more than just like 2 years or a year and a half or however long it's been, we'll probably just be like a little bit more comfortable and understand the like rhythm of, what's happening set to set and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And we do understand that there's kind of a hard counter to our point, right? That, pre-Monarch was not the game that LSS designed, right? Like Welcome to Wraith was the like scaled back, dumbed down intro version to get us involved and hooked and teach you the nuance of the game. And then post Monarch, as they kind of advertised, was the upgraded full version, where your instant speed creepers playing Plunder Run to pump Riftbind up to trigger the draw, like all these like very cool, intricate plays, and to be honest, I really appreciate the complex, intricacies of playing the post Monarch game, right? Like the game has got really interesting in terms of the lines you can take. So there's definitely a lot of positives. But yeah, it's like now, and I guess part of that counter could be, like you said, once the game's a bit older, enough of these heroes or classes will be upgraded and there'll be enough new classes and new characters that the field will be quite broad with, existing counters to different things, and we'll have had the time to like kind of bring everybody up to the power level that they need to be to compete. And we'll see what that looks like. Maybe they'll nail it. Maybe it'll be great, but we're just sitting at this, I think. And we're discussing this right now because this is on a lot of players' minds. We don't always love to like speculate about, the health of the game at every moment, because people always have their, critiques and the things they like and don't like and all that. But it seems like we're kind of at this turning point or this threshold right now that everybody is a little bit nervous as to what it's going to look like in the future, because of the the advancement of the game and the power level of certain decks at the moment, But a good friend of ours had the point that I think one thing we need in the game is we need to bring back more interaction, right? Because, if Starvo can just like back to back crippling Oakenold you, or like Viserai can do 40 damage on turn 2, or whatever, that kind of power level exists, right? And I don't think it's just like going away from the game, right? But more interaction than just having like Ice Lexi exists, right? But bringing back more disruption or more interaction for the rest of the heroes or the rest of the decks to have a say or a counter into these powerful plays, I think would be a huge benefit to the game.
Yeah, and I can hear you at home too right now being like, we don't need counter spells and silver bullets and that sort of thing, because that then just makes the game a game of that counter or whatever. And we're not saying that,
No, not at all. It's just that there used to be quite a bit of interaction, and now if somebody draws too hot on one turn, they win a whole game of Classic Constructed. Yeah. Whereas before it's like you just lose or win tempo or whatever. Now it's just the power level is so great that a lot of games seem to be decided fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So just however they do it, interaction or introducing more interaction between the two sides would be really welcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and it'll be, part of this too, I think, is there's a bit of fatigue, like Prism, Runeblade, Guardian, like that's just been the meta since Monarch, right? It feels like. So, and this is the third set where we still have Prism, a Runeblade, Guardian, kind of as the top decks. I mean, I guess you could say that like maybe Prism wasn't one of the best decks in the Monarch meta, but that's like, people were still playing it all over the place. So I think that bit of fatigue has something to do with it. It'll be interesting to see this next draftable set coming out in the summer. If that is something like a mechanologist, a ninja, and a wizard, and if those wind up being the three next best heroes, if we feel similarly when that happens, right? Will the fatigue of new set, new heroes are the best, my old heroes can't be played into this competitive season, will that persist, or will just the fact that we are getting to see heroes that haven't been at the top tables finally there, will that be enough?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. The dream is that, these new heroes that you mentioned are brought up to the level and play with, Chain and Viscerai and Briar and Prism and Lexi and, Guardians.
Well, I mean, the past sets have shown that just the new heroes are better and people just play those, and that's the new
right.
meta.
But we have heroes that persist a bit, like Chain or like Lexi, right? Who are not top tier, but do, you can still, like to our point before, you can still play a game with them, right? Yeah. And have an interactive experience. So yeah, I was just saying that hopefully the next set will introduce these new heroes that coexist with all of these heroes and introduce new dynamics without just raising the power level again,
Yeah, totally. And I think this is also like slightly opinion based. Like I think you still can say that the game is still really healthy. The meta is really healthy. You have these 3, maybe 5 decks that you can really play, when you include those like kind of dark horse B tier heroes. And that's like a pretty great place to play when you think about other games where there's like a deck.
Yeah. That's a great point or a great reminder, because from a competitive standpoint, the game is really healthy. Yeah. We have 3 top tier decks and 6, tier S and tier A decks. Yeah. So from a competitive standpoint, that's great.
Totally. But there just is something off. Yeah. I think is how I'm going to wrap this up with, that I'm having trouble putting my finger on, but as of now, I'm just going to put it up to like, similar meta fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a fair complaint.
Totally. So now what?
Excellent segue, co-host.
Thank you.
So we're just a bit down the rabbit hole there with our hats on and our,
totally.
It's just
it's the wine in the in person.
Oh yeah,
staring at those baby blues.
Doing this in person is just great.
Yeah, totally. If you didn't know, Isaac has blue eyes.
But this is a game we like really love so much. So having a bit of a worry or some critiques or whatever, we just want the game to be the best it can be. Still a blast to play. Still play all the time.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep podcasting. We're gonna keep playing. I mean, really like we talked about in the reaction step, the fact that Blitz just feels like a really nice palate cleanser right now.
Yeah,
and there's like we said, some fringe heroes to kind of deck build with and stuff, and itch that part of the game, which is actually really nice at this point. So good job. You're nailing that part, LSS.
And there's always limited. Everfest came out, so we're having a bit of a break, but limited just is so good in this game. And it will always be back set after set to cleanse our palates, as you said.
I cannot wait for a new draftable set. I just really can't wait. I'm so excited for that. Everfest is cool. The supplemental sets are cool. But there's just draft and sealed is so fun, and it's so cool, and it's a real skill you need.
Well, we're going to go draft some Arcane Rising this weekend. And I have a box of Tales First that's sitting on the shelf waiting to be drafted too.
Oh, wow. Maybe I'll pull New Horizon out of there. Are we on to signature segments?
Sure. Do you have any thoughts? So I guess a little pinch of news is there is a ban announcement coming up soon, and everybody likes to speculate on the ban announcement. Would you like to say anything about that, or just move straight to signature segments?
Well, I don't really foresee anything that needs to be dealt with. You know what I mean? I'm sure some people want Bravo to be nerfed. Star of the show, sorry, excuse me. But there's no card or real interaction that I think is above any other powerful level. I mean, Crown of Seeds is pretty nuts. That's a very good card. But gets kind of nerfed unless they keep making heroes that can use it.
Yeah, right.
But it just gets kind of nerfed by the corner it has to stay in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the balance to that card used to be that only old him can use it. But
yeah, totally. But if they make another Guardian, or is it an Earth? No, yeah.
Yeah, it's Earth.
Oh yeah. So if they make another Earth hero, I forget that. And Briar just doesn't use it.
No, it's just not. She doesn't have resource sinks on the other player's turn.
Yeah.
So
wild. Well, now I'm Crown of Seeds Briar is the way to go. Probably not. Somebody's already thought of that. But so if they don't make another Earth hero, it will stay fairly fair. So
agreed.
That's it.
Any of your complaints about Starvo or any other heroes are just too broad, right? Star of the Show has the biggest card pool, access to all of the pulses and crown. It's just too many things. It's not a broken card. So I also don't foresee anything coming in the ban announcement.
Yeah, totally. I mean, maybe we get Plunder Run actually banned in Blitz, but who knows? It's partway through Blitz season, so I don't know what they're gonna do there. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Probably nothing, which is good. Signatures.
Yeah, I didn't grab a pack, so I'll be right back.
Well, this is what I was gonna say. I thought of this partway through one of your long things. Is I have a bit of a Tales of Aria draft fatigue. So I think it's fine for us to take an episode off.
Okay, that's all right with me.
As we figure this out live. So sorry, people, that you're missing out on that.
Well, next time.
Yeah, you get a bit of a shorter listen today. If you are upset, then tweet at us your own pick, pass, pray scenario, and we'll answer it on Twitter.
Sounds good. Tweet something productive.
Yeah, totally.
Do we have any other segments?
We do. Board game from the closet. Yeah. Give me that one.
So here at the Attack Action Podcast, we love to play many board games. And Flesh and Blood is not the only game we partake in. We both have stacked closets full of board games that we love most of them, right? So here's one we would like to share with you. This may not be our favorite or the best board game in the world, but it's one that we really enjoy, and we hope you will enjoy at home as well. This episode's board game from the closet is Taylor's board game.
Nice. You get better at that every time. I feel like it gets like 2 seconds longer every time.
Well, I had a glass of wine this time, so it's just like...
but it's better every time. Like wine. So my board game from the closet this time is Cytosis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it is a worker placement game that also has a set collection in it, and it is based on DNA replication, right? Cytosis or cellular respiration or whatever, So you get little workers, and you gotta, match your different pairs and go through the process of, with mRNA and RNA and all of that, and then you come out at the other end, and you're trying to get hands of cards to play stuff and collect things, and it's actually surprisingly good at showing you those processes inside of a cell and having a game about it, which is surprising that you can learn something beyond game mechanics and strategy, but you can also learn something that you might learn in your high school biology class as well.
Yeah, and it makes it fun learning it.
Yeah, totally. Great colors. It's really fun. So if you teach high school science or, are looking for a slightly different take and theme on worker placement that doesn't have to do with the industrial revolution.
Yeah, post-apocalyptic warscape.
Yeah. Medieval farming. Anything anybody does in Europe before the 1900s, then this is a great one for you.
Totally. The medieval farming genre has been used.
Totally. Sidebar, I was thinking about getting a new board game the other day and was like, is there nothing exciting out there anymore? Come on, everybody. Anyway, sorry. Tweet at me if you are no, there are these really exciting things.
Nice.
Yes, we've backed the Kickstarter for Sorcery. We're fine. We got it. We're on top of that, Buzz market that a little bit for them.
Yeah, great board game, Cytosis. Let us know if you play it and enjoy it as well. Let us know if you have played any of our board games based on recommendation and have then been like, fuck yes. This game's great. I'm so glad they told me about this.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Please let us know. That would make us pretty happy.
Yeah. Because if not, we're just going to cut this segment out because we're running out of board games in our closet.
Totally. And this Flesh and Blood game takes up all our time, so we have less board game exploration time.
That's so true. It's also, nobody has been listening to our past episodes and has cataloged all of our board games, so we don't do any doubles.
Oh, right.
Right? We haven't had a call from anyone okay, I did it. Here's the spreadsheet.
I was going to do that at one point and just go to the end of every episode and just record it. But now we have so many episodes and I'm kind of backlogged on podcast homework. So I have also not done that.
Yeah, there's more important things for sure. Okay, well, is there anything else you would like to talk about before we sign off?
I do have a riddle me this that you have inspired. My riddle me this.
You're welcome, everyone.
Riddle me this is a Earthlore bounty, right? I love parallel cards, or however you want to, New Horizon or Skullbone Crosswrap, or cards that compete in a slot and offer a different strategy. Earthlore Bounty, yes, I know what it does. I know which cards, benefit it, but, show me some success with your Earthlore Bounty build, right? Taylor's been working on it. It's a pretty cool interaction. It competes with the Tunic Crown thing at the moment, which is unfortunate, but,
or tectonic plating.
Yeah. But, it's a cool card.
It is cool. And the cold foil full art is so dope. It's so cool. Okay, well, thank you, Isaac, for being here.
At my house, where I live.
Also, Rocky, your cat, is so cute, sleeping on your bed.
He's cute sleeper.
Yeah,
he's a sleep cuter,
just imagine like a cat and it's sleeping. And you got it, Okay, well, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody for listening, and we hope to hear from you. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Attack Action Podcast. On Twitter, we are at BattleBro Taylor and at BattleBro Isaac. Shoot us an email, theattackactionpodcast@gmail.com.
If you would like to support us, like and subscribe, shop for singles using our affiliate link, or support our Patreon for as little as $4 per month.